How did reggae rock become such a big genre in Australia and New Zealand? Well, check out the rest of this video and I'll explain it. Hey everyone, Liam from Solitude here, and today I'm going to be talking about the reggae rock revolution in Australia and New Zealand. So reggae rock is a blend obviously of those two genres, reggae and rock. Now reggae obviously has its roots in the Caribbean. Of course we think of the likes of Bob Marley whenever you hear reggae, and it really was a super niche and influential sound for its time when it came out. I guess it can be described as like this kind of slowed down ska music that uses the offbeat quite prominently in its rhythm section. It's got a quite distinctive beat as well that's often played, that's usually quite simple. And rock music, I'm guessing people would know stuff that's played with heavier guitars, drums, and slightly more aggressive vocals. But around the start of the 2010s, this sort of genre of music really was not popular at all to my knowledge. And I think one of the things that happened was that there was a big underground reggae sort of community, especially within the Pacific Island community in Australia and New Zealand. For whatever reason, Pacific Islanders, that being Maoris, Tongans, Samoans, people from those cultures, really get into reggae music. And I guess it's kind of, I don't know, part of their heritage because they like that sort of beachy culture and they enjoy the sort of sound that reggae brings and the vibe that it creates. But there was just a lot of love for that sort of music within their communities, and this is where we saw the emergence of a New Zealand band called 660. I don't profess to be all too well knowledgeable in New Zealand music history, so apologies if I'm not getting everything right here, but to my knowledge 660 were one of the first and biggest bands to break through playing this sort of reggae rock music. In particular their song Don't Forget Your Roots. Don't forget your roots, don't forget your family. Which upon its release was not that popular, but slowly grew to become iconic in New Zealand's music history now. Now this song with its kind of like simple reggae rock bop was hugely influential in New Zealand, and now we see so many bands kind of copying this formula. And over the other side of the ocean, in my home country, Australia, we saw something similar happening, and initially it was with the band Sticky Fingers. Now once again, the Pacific Island influence was present here, with the lead singer from Sticky Fingers being of a Maori heritage. But when he met up with his fellow Sticky Fingers bandmates in the western suburbs of Sydney, they got together and blended their diverse influences to create what arguably has become one of the most influential sounds in Australian music of the last 15 years. I take the brakes off. They were able to bring Dylan's reggae influence and mesh it with very tight rock-orientated guitars and drums. Now apparently they were quite heavily influenced by another local Sydney band called King Tide at the time, so I've got to shout out them. But it was Sticky Fingers that really broke through and created the slipstream for others to follow. When they first approached Triple J with their sound, Triple J didn't really want anything of it. No one was playing reggae in Australia, and I think it was seen to be kind of lame. But the people just loved this band. They were getting a lot of attention for doing these kind of like renegade shows that were going against the mainstream, and they were just growing a huge audience in their local community. Eventually it got to the point where Triple J could not ignore them any longer, as they got voted into the Hottest 100 and were clearly one of the most popular bands in the country. Once Triple J put them on their playlist, the floodgates opened. We saw the emergence of so many copycat Sticky Fingers bands over the past 5 to 10 years since they broke out. We obviously had Ocean Alley, who took off where Sticky Fingers left after their controversy, which left them blacklisted from Triple J, which I speak about in this video here if you want to check out. We saw Tash Sultana pop up, who became an extremely popular and influential figure in this reggae rock genre, specifically with Tash's song Jungle, which got pretty big all over the world, especially here in Australia. And in my hometown of Perth, reggae rock just went crazy. Great Gable popped up to become one of the most popular local bands. We also had another Polynesian influenced band called Coterie do a lot of really good things over the past 5 to 10 years, playing that sort of reggae rock, but with a little bit more like soulful Matt Corby vibes. But I'm missing kisses and missing the sea. I feel Another one that is kind of in between reggae, indie, and surf rock is Lime Cordiale, who are also one of the most popular and influential rock bands, I guess you could say, going around in Australia at the moment. Oh, I love you, oh, you're like gold to me. But why did this genre become so popular? Well, it's difficult to put my finger on, but I think it goes back to some of the things that I was talking about before. Now, over the past 15 years, we have really seen the emergence of Pacific Island culture within Australia. It's now a huge subculture within specific areas of the country, particularly in the western suburbs of Brisbane and Sydney, where a lot of people you meet there will say something along the lines of this: "My heritage is Samoan. I was born in Auckland, but now I live in Sydney." And hey, this is cool. Way more diversity in Australia and the emergence of a culture that's brought great music with it, which is why I think we've seen the rise of reggae rock in Australia. I think people are also kind of just like in the mood for it. It's got a nice vibe, a nice bop to it. It's easy to get into. It's palatable. It's not too heavy. Both a lot of boys and girls like it, so it's just an all-encompassing sound that everyone can like. Are there any other reggae rock bands in Australia and New Zealand that you think I should be talking about or are worth checking out? Comment them below.